After his first request was denied to be deployed in Vietnam for the war, Gary Wetzel submitted another request that was granted. Wetzel first served in an ordnance unit, but he wanted to do something with aviation, so he re-enlisted to get his choice of station while he was overseas. He was assigned to the 173rd Assault Helicopter Company. He experienced combat for the first time in that unit and was shot down 4 times during his service. It was the 5th time he was shot down that he earned the Medal of Honor. In January 1968, just 10 days before his tour of duty would have ended, Wetzel's Assault Helicopter Company was doing flights to check for enemy activity in the southern end of Vietnam when they touched down in a landing zone that was immediately bombarded with enemy fire. Wetzel, who was serving as his chopper's door gunner, said the crossfire was tremendous. Seconds after landing, a rocket hit the aircraft. As Wetzel and his crew chief Bart Jarvis tried to help their wounded aircraft commander Tim Artman, 2 more enemy rockets exploded just inches from them. Those explosions blew Wetzel out of the helicopter and into a rice paddy. Wetzel discovered he couldn't move his left arm, and his right arm, chest, and left leg were also bleeding profusely. However, he was still able to shoot down an enemy soldier who was trying to throw a grenade. Wetzel staggered back to his helicopter's gun well to return fire. His machine gun was the only weapon effectively firing back at the enemy. Eventually, his shooting took out the automatic weapons emplacement that had pinned down and caused the heavy casualties on the U.S. troops. Wetzel refused to treat his own wounds and instead tried to drag himself back to Jarvis to help Artman, but he passed out from the loss of blood before he could reach them. After regaining consciousness, he remained persistent in his effort to help his commander. Another soldier in Wetzel's helicopter later said, "I recall thinking even then how miraculous it was that the man was still alive." Wetzel continued to crawl, and after an extremely painful effort, he made it to Jarvis, who was still trying to drag the wounded Artman out of a rice paddy into the cover of a nearby dike. Wetzel continued to help him until he passed out again. Sadly, Artman didn't survive. Wetzel said his crew fought for 10 to 12 hours before they got any help and were able to evacuate. He later said that he was determined to make it out of there because, even though he thought he was dying, he didn't want to do so in a rice paddy. Afterward, the nurses told him he went through 18 units of blood during his immediate recovery. He spent the next 6 months in hospitals and needed to have his arm amputated. He was discharged in June of 1968. In September, his superiors told him that he would be going on a trip, but they couldn't tell him where or why. He eventually learned it would be to Washington, D.C., to receive the Medal of Honor for his actions in Vietnam. Subscribe for more.